The idea that I have is to do a sound installation called Echolocation, which will be based at the London Wetland Centre. And it takes its inspiration as well as its material from the thousands of bats that visit the centre every evening in search of food. As the bats fly in, they emit ultrasonic calls to help them with their navigation, to signal with each other, and also to locate food. My installation makes use of these ultrasonic calls, first of all by recording them, and then processing and sequencing these sounds into a musical composition that visitors to the reserve will be able to listen to on the following day. There are at least 7 different types of bat that visit the reserve, each one with a different call. They arrive at different times and feed off different types of insects. For example, some skim over the surface of the lakes, and others hunt for steep dives over the pasture. The ultrasonic calls that the bats make can be easily picked up using a bat detector. As the bats broadcast on different frequencies, it's possible to use the bat detector to tune into the calls of the different bats. Through the use of wireless technology, the bat calls picked up by the bat detectors will be transmitted to a central computer, which will catalogue the sounds and use them to provide musical components for the resulting composition. The calls will be used in the composition as rhythmic material as well as melodic material, with the different qualities in the calls such as the timbre, the volume and the pitches informing the musical content. For example, as bat calls on the whole consist of short, fast and arrhythmic patterns of notes, I imagine that echolocation will also probably have this feel to it. I imagine a composition made up of layered, rapid phrases out of which emerge slower moving harmonies as the different notes work together, corresponding to the flights and calls of the bats. Echolocation is what I call a responsive composition, since it will update itself on a daily basis as it takes its information from the previous night's recordings. This means it will only sound during the months when the bats are in action, so from about late March through to early November. In season, each day's performance will be different and will be an indication of the bat activity at the reserve, as changes in the bat's behaviour, such as variation in numbers and species, as well as the mating and feeding habits throughout the season, are reflected in the composition content. Each day's echolocation performance will be repeated throughout the day in a very accessible part of the reserve close to the centre's entrance. As people enter the space, they will enter into the composition itself and be immersed by the sound of the music as it travels around and above them. Echolocation will be heard by not only the tens of thousands of people who visit the reserve each year, but will also be available for listening over the internet. As well as this, the various recordings of the bats that feed into the composition will be available to researchers, providing a valuable resource to scientists working at the Wetland Centre and beyond. Wherever the listening takes place, the composition will provide its listeners with a unique link to the natural but hidden phenomenon of the ultrasonic world of the bats. It will encourage its audience to think about the nature of music and even of sound in a different way. Echolocation will stimulate the imagination, intrigue the mind, and speak to the heart, shaping understandings about the possibilities of music composition as well as our knowledge of the natural world.